cranial nerves. The nerves that are associated with the brain are called cranial nerves. In the peripheral nervous system, we have two kinds of nerves, the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. The cranial nerves arise from the brain. They emerge out from the cranium. They come out from the cranium through the different foramina. They come out from the foramina in the in the brain. There are 12 pairs. They are frequent. Functionally, they are of two types. They can be mixed nerves. Mixed nerve. Mixed nerve is made up of both sensory or it can be made up of motor. Both. It is made up of sensory and motor nerves. Sensory nerves bring the information from the brain, from the to the sense organ to the brain. They are called the sensory nerves. Next, motor nerves, they carry the commands from the brain to the effector organ. So we have a bundle of axons which do different functions. If it is sensory, it carries the information from the sense organ to the brain. If it is motor, it carries the commands which are given from the brain to the effector organ. So we have 12 pairs of nerves, which 12 pairs of cranial nerves which come out from the brain and the brainstem. The first one which emerges out from the first vertebrae, it is called the atlas vertebrae. These are paired and they are present on both the sides of the cranial nerves. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. In this 12 pairs of cranial nerves, one extra cranial nerve is there. That is why that nerve is called the zero nerve or the cranial nerve zero. This cranial nerve zero is called the terminal nerve. It has no function in human beings. It has no function in human beings, but it has been, it is expected that it gives hormonal responses for sexual responses, mating, all these things takes place in the zero terminal nerve. Next nerve is the olfactory nerve. Olfactory nerve starts from the nose. Olfactory nerve starts from the nose. In the nose, the olfactory nerve, the olfactory nerve starts the olfactory nerve. We are talking about olfactory nerve. This olfactory nerve, it starts from the nose. It starts from the nose where there is olfactory epithelium. And one more thing you have to remember is that the trigeminal nerve, the olfactory nerve, and the optic nerve. The terminal nerve, the olfactory nerve, and the optic nerve, they start from the cerebrum, whereas all others, that is from the third to the 12th nerve, cranial nerve, they are a part of, all these are the part of peripheral nervous system. They are the part of peripheral nervous system. They start from the brain stem, the oculum, the third nerve to the 12th nerve. It starts from the brain stem. So, cranial nerves are the nerves which are associated with the brain. Cranial nerves are the nerves which are associated with the brain. They emerge out from the cranium through the various foramina. The opening which is there, they are called the foramina. The three nerves, terminal nerves, olfactory nerve, and the optic nerve, it starts from the cerebrum. It starts from the cerebrum, and it um, and it is a part of central nervous system. We consider these nerves to be the part of central nervous system. The other parts are all considered to be the part of peripheral nervous system. Let us come to the terminal nerve. I finished terminal nerve. Next one is the olfactory nerve. This nerve is associated with the sense of smell. Olfactory nerve is associated with the sense of smell. It starts, the nerves which are there, it is a sensory nerve. So the sense organ it starts. It is a sensory nerve, that is why it starts from the olfactory epithelium. It enters through it goes to the olfactory bulb. Olfactory bulb, if you remember, it is the first part of the brain in the forebrain. From there, it reaches into the temporal fossa, temporal lobe of the cerebral hemisphere. Next one is the optic nerve. This nerve is also sensory. It is associated with the sight. This optic nerve is associated with sight. It transmits visual information. It transmits visual information. From where? From the retina. It arises from the retina. From the retina, what happens is two optic nerves arise from each optic nerve arises from each eyeball, from the each eye, each retina, and then when it goes into the diencephalon, there is a crossing over. The right optic nerve goes to the left, and the left optic nerve goes to the right, and there is an crossing over. This is called the optic chiasma. So this goes to the visual cortex of the occipital lobe of the brain, which is the cerebrum. In the cerebrum, outer part of the cerebrum, this optical lobe, occipital lobe is there, which is present at the back. Occipital lobe is at the back of the head. If you remember, the cerebral hemisphere is divided into four parts. First part is the frontal, near your temple, you have the temporal lobe. Next one, there is a parietal lobe right on the top of your head, and then you have the occipital lobe, which is at the back. Next one, the oculomotor nerve. This oculomotor nerve, what you have to remember is that the oculomotor nerve, the third oculomotor nerve, fourth trochlear nerve, and the sixth, 3, 4, and 6. These all are concerned with the movement of the eyeball. Movement of eyeball is under the control of these three nerves: oculomotor, trochlear, and the abducens nerve. So oculomotor, it is a motor nerve because it controls the muscle. Always remember, muscles are controlled. So it starts from the floor of the midbrain. Midbrain is made up of crura cerebri. Midbrain is made up of, if you remember, midbrain is made up of crura cerebri and the corpora quadrigemina. Midbrain is made up of crura cerebri and corpora quadrigemina. So it controls all the muscles of the eye except the superior oblique muscles. So oculomotor controls the movement of the eye so that you can look up or dots at the sides. If you look at the eye, you can look up, or both the eyes will be looking up. Okay. Or if you're looking down, both the eyes will be looking down. So this movement of the eyeball, or it can be looking at the sides. We are looking at the sides. Then this movement is controlled by the oculomotor nerve. Except the superior oblique muscles are not under the control of our oculomotor nerve. So it controls the ciliary and the iris muscle of the eyeball. Next one is the trochlear nerve. Trochlear nerve, it controls the superior oblique muscle, and again it is present in the floor of the midbrain. The next one is the abducens. We'll come back to the trigeminal. Meanwhile, let us look at the abducens. This abducens nerve, it is again present in the pons varoli. It joins the grassarian ganglion. It controls the lateral eye muscles. It controls the lateral rectal muscle of the eye. It controls the lateral rectal muscle of the eye. Next one. Let us come to the trigeminal. Tri means three. Trigeminal nerve is made up of three parts. It controls three. It has three main branches, which controls the ophthalmic. Again, it is the eye. It controls the ophthalmic, which controls it is sensory, and it controls the impulses from the conjunctiva. I am telling once again, we are talking about ophthalmic. Ophthalmic is again a sensory nerve. It is a sensory nerve. It gets the information from the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva. Next one. Second one is the lacrimal glands. Just near your eye, there is a very small opening through which tear glands come out. Tears come out. That gland is called the lacrimal gland. Lacrimal gland. So the branch, which is the ophthalmic branch, controls the uh, eyelids, lacrimal glands, and the conjunctiva. Maxillary glands. Maxillary gland controls the palate, maxillary gland and the mandibular gland. Both they bring the information. Two thirds. It brings the information from the tongue, teeth, lips, palate, nose, and the cheek. Majorly, this brings the information from the cheek, from the tongue, from the palate. This is what is the maxillary. When you come to the mandibular, the chewing of the food takes place because of the mandibular gland, mandibular nerve. So, trigeminal nerve is made up of three branches: ophthalmic, maxillary, and the mandibular. Ophthalmic, it controls three: conjunctiva, the sensations which are there in the conjunctiva, the lacrimal gland, and the lacrimal gland and the eyelids. These are controlled because of the ophthalmic nerve. Maxillary nerve, it brings the information from the palate. Palate is the part which is present in your mouth, the hard part which is present in the mouth. The tongue, the teeth, the lips, nose, all these things bring the information to the brain through the maxillary nerve. Next one, mandibular nerve. Mandibular nerve, it helps in the chewing of the food. It helps in the chewing of the food. Let us come to the abducens again. I told you abducen, it controls this. Facial expression. Facial expressions are controlled. Most of the muscles are controlled by the seventh nerve, which is called the facial nerve. Now, the facial nerve also supplies, carries a sensation. It carries a sensation, that is why this is also called sensory part of the facial nerve. It is the mixed nerve. When I say mixed nerve, it has both the sensory part as well as the motor part. Now, when I say controls the muscles of the facial expression, this nerve will be a motor neuron. Whereas, when it supplies a sensation of taste from two-thirds of the tongue to the pons or the brain stem, then it is the sensory nerve. If there is a damage to the, if there is a damage to the to the facial nerve, the person will suffer from facial palsy. There is a paralysis of the face, which is called the Bell's palsy. Next one, motor nerves arise from the pons and end in the facial parts. That is the palate, hyoid. Hyoid is present in just behind near your pharynx, sublingual near the tongue, and submaxillary salivary glands. So it will help in the mm, salivary glands. Next one, vestibulocochlear. Vestibulocochlear. Now, vestibulocochlear is this here. Cochlea is connected with hearing. Cochlea is connected with hearing, and vestibule is concerned with balance. So, in the vestibule, you have two parts, sacculus and utriculus. There are the two parts of the vestibule and the semicircular canal of the ear. These two, it carries an information. Now, vestibulocochlear nerve is a sensory neuron. So always remember, it brings the sensation, it brings the information to the brain. So the sacculus and nutriculus of the vestibule and the semicircular canal of the inner ear, which helps in the balance. This helps in the balance. Next one, there is an important constituent which is called the vestibulo-ocular reflex. Now, this reflex, it sends the motion. It helps in keeping your head stable. When there is an object moving, we can move just your eye. You need not move your head. This can happen because only because of vestibulo-ocular reflex. Next one, if there is a damage to the vestibular nerve, if there is a damage to the vestibular nerve, that kind of person suffers from vertigo. So what is vertigo? Vertigo. That person feels that the spinning of the head takes place. That person feels that he or she is spinning, head is spinning, and then they vomit. This usually happens because that person is suffering from vertigo. Now, it ends in the vestibular complex, which is present in the floor of the fourth ventricle. Now, this fourth ventricle is present in the medulla oblongata. Fourth ventricle is present in the medulla oblongata. Let us come to the next branch, that is the cochlear nerve. Cochlear nerve is this nerve is concerned with hearing. It starts from the organ of Corti in the inner ear. Organ of Corti, it has this kind of branches, which these all nerves go and form the auditory nerve. Auditory nerve, which go again, this go terminates in the junction of pons and medulla. Next one, let us come to the glossopharyngeal. So, oral, pharyngeal, pharynx. So these are the motor fibers. This is again a mixed one. You have a sensory neuron as well as a motor neuron here. So the motor fibers arise from the medulla oblongata. It ends in the muscle of pharynx, parotid, submaxillary, and sublingual salivary gland. So salivation takes place because of the motor fibers which arise from the medulla oblongata. Next one, the sensory fibers are there. They have to bring the information to the medulla from the taste buds of the one third posterior at the back of the tongue and the pharynx. It brings the information. Suppose you are eating some food and it is very bitter in taste. That kind of bitter taste goes to the brain with the help of this glossopharyngeal ganglion. Let us come to the next one, the vagus nerve. This is the largest nerve. The largest nerve in our body, not in our body, in the cranial nerve, is the vagus nerve, very important nerve. Now look at this nerve, it starts from your brain, it goes till your stomach. So it has sensory. Now this is a motor nerve. It is a mixed nerve. Actually, vagus nerve is a mixed nerve. So it has both sensory as well as the motor neurons. Now, since sensory from different parts of the body, it brings the information from the neck, from the chest to the abdomen. Look at the parts which it is innervating from the neck, chest, and abdomen very far. So, damage to the vagus nerve may cause rise in blood pressure and heart rate. The motor fibers, this arise from the medulla oblongata and terminate in the muscles of the lungs, the heart, esophagus, stomach, and intestine. As I said, it is very large, very big nerve which comes from the brain and it supplies to half of the upper torso. The complete upper torso is supplied by this nerve. Now, it is also useful in parasympathetic supply. So what do you mean by parasympathetic supply? After the heart rate and all these things have increased, it brings it back to the normal. This is called the parasympathetic neuron. Let us come to the next one, that is the spinal accessory nerve, which is a motor neuron. So it arises from the medulla and terminates in the muscles of the pharynx, larynx, neck, and shoulder. Most of the time, sometimes the shoulder blade it becomes it changes its shape, it becomes winged. There are a lot of this kind of abnormalities arise only when there is a damage to the spinal accessory neuron. Next one is the hypo lesser one. It supplies to the tongue, the other part of the tongue. Sometimes when this nerve is damaged, sometimes when this nerve is damaged, what happens is the person's tongue becomes weak. Now the tongue it will lead to the atrophy or fasciculation. Atrophy and fasciculation means what? This side of the tongue will not be working properly, and that person cannot speak. Sometimes when there is a paralysis, what happens is that person cannot speak. After this, mm, in paralysis, this part is damaged. What happens? What damage takes place? The um, the damage that takes place is the person cannot talk, or that person cannot um, the swallow food. All these things happen only because of the damage to hypo mm, hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal nerve. So I'll stop here.